I stood frozen in my doorway, watching my brother Frank's face drain of color as he took in my empty living room. "Patty, where's everything?" he whispered. Before I could answer my son, Brad's booming voice filled the air. "I give all her money to my wife. Every penny of Mom's $12,000 pension goes straight to Jennifer." The room erupted in shocked gasps from our family reunion guests. Frank slowly removed his coat, his military tattoo visible. What happened next left Brad unconscious on my bare floor. 3 hours before Frank arrived, I knelt on the cold hardwood floor of what used to be my dining room, carefully arranging paper plates in a circle. My knees protested against the hard surface, but I had no choice. The mahogany table where I'd served 47 Thanksgiving dinners was gone, along with the matching chairs my late husband Carl had surprised me with on our 25th anniversary. The doorbell chimed, and I pushed myself up, joints creaking. Through the peephole, I saw the grocery delivery boy holding 2 small bags. I'd ordered the cheapest items possible, a package of hot dogs, white bread, and generic potato chips for the family reunion. My stomach churned with shame as I handed him exact change, counting out quarters and dimes from the ceramic bowl by the door. 6 months ago, everything had been different. Brad had appeared at my doorstep on a rainy Tuesday morning, his face creased with concern. "Mom, you really need help managing all these finances," he'd said, settling into Carl's leather recliner. "What if something happens to you? What if you have a medical emergency and can't access your accounts?" I'd been grieving Carl for only 8 months, then still lost in the fog of widowhood. The stack of bills and bank statements seemed insurmountable. When Brad suggested adding him to my accounts, just for emergencies, relief had washed over me like cool water on a burn. Jennifer started her visits the very next week. My daughter-in-law would breeze in wearing designer sunglasses and perfume that made my eyes water always with a pressing need. "Patty, sweetie, Brad's car needs new tires, and you know how dangerous it is to drive on worn treads." Or, "Madison's dance recital costume costs $400. Can you believe these prices?" At first I gave freely. My $12,000 monthly pension from Carl's 40 years at Boeing felt excessive for just one person. Why shouldn't I help my only son and his family? But the requests escalated. Jennifer needed a new refrigerator. Brad's business required investment capital. Madison suddenly required private tutoring, though her report cards showed straight A's. The furniture began disappearing in October. "We're just storing it while you get the floors refinished," Brad assured me, directing movers to wrap my grandmother's Victorian settee. I hadn't mentioned wanting to refinish anything, but arguing felt pointless. The china cabinet went next, then the bedroom set, even the kitchen table where Carl had proposed over morning coffee. By December, Brad announced a new system my pension would auto-deposit into his account. "I'll pay all your bills directly," he explained, waving a folder of official-looking papers. "You won't have to worry about a thing. We'll give you an allowance for groceries and incidentals." The first month he transferred $500, the second month $300. By February, I was receiving $100 to last 4 weeks. When I called to question it, Jennifer answered, "Your expenses are higher than you realize, Mom. The property taxes alone are killing us. Plus, we had to pay for your Medicare supplements and those prescriptions." I knew my Medicare covered my medications, but confrontation had never been my strong suit. Carl had always said I was too soft, too willing to believe the best in people. Now surviving on $47 after they graciously paid my expenses, I understood what he meant. My refrigerator told the story of my decline. Once stocked with organic vegetables and grass-fed beef, it now held a bottle of yellow mustard, 3 eggs, and a quart of milk that had expired 4 days ago. I'd become an expert at making a can of soup last 2 meals, adding water to stretch the broth. But the worst blow came yesterday when I was searching for a sweater in the hall closet. Behind Carl's old golf bag, I found a crumpled receipt from a consignment shop. My heart stopped as I read the items. Vintage Spode China Service for 12 sterling silver flatware set crystal stemware collection. The total made me gasp $8,700. Needing air, I'd walked to the corner market where we had internet access. My fingers shook as I typed Jennifer's name into social media. Her profile blazed with photos of my belongings. There was my grandmother's china displayed in her dining room, captioned, "Scored this amazing estate sale find, feeling blessed." Another showed her hosting a dinner party with my sterling silver hashtag, vintage vibes. My wedding crystal sparkled in her kitchen window. Carl's mother's pearl necklace graced her throat at a New Year's party. Each image felt like another wound, but the final post shattered me completely. Jennifer stood in front of a gleaming white Mercedes keys dangling from manicured fingers. Hard work pays off. Just bought my dream car. Walking home, I'd passed neighbors watering lawns and children riding bicycles, the normal suburban life I'd once been part of continuing without me. No one knew that Patty Hartman, the woman who'd organized church bazaars and hosted Bridge Club for 3 decades, now ate crackers for dinner on her living room floor. Pride is a peculiar thing. It can protect you from pity, but it also becomes a prison. I'd told Frank on our weekly calls that everything was wonderful. Described imaginary dinners with Brad and Jennifer, invented shopping trips with Madison. My brother had enough worries commanding his unit overseas without adding his older sister to the list. Now the reunion loomed like a storm cloud. 23 relatives expecting Patty's famous pot roast and apple pie would find paper plates and hot dogs served on bare floors. The humiliation felt suffocating, but what choice did I have? Canceling would require explanations I couldn't bear to give. I returned to arranging the paper plates, trying to make them appear festive. Maybe if I folded the napkins creatively, no one would notice the absence of furniture. Maybe Brad and Jennifer would show restraint, not flaunt their newfound wealth. Maybe I could pretend for one more day that my life hadn't crumbled to dust. The afternoon sun slanted through bare windows where elegant drapes once hung. In the emptiness, every sound echoed. I closed my eyes and remembered the house as it was warm, welcoming, filled with evidence of a life well lived. When I opened them again, reality crashed back. My knees protested as I stood to check the hot dogs. They'd need to stretch to feed everyone, so I cut them into smaller pieces. Creative presentation, I told myself. Gourmet appetizers. The laugh that escaped sounded hollow in the vacant room. A car door slammed outside. My heart hammered as I peered through the blinds. A rental car sat in my driveway, and a familiar figure emerged. Frank. My brother, who wasn't supposed to arrive until evening, stood surveying my weed-choked lawn with a frown. Panic seized me. The house wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. How could I explain the emptiness, the paper plates, the pitiful spread of food? But Frank was already climbing the porch steps, and I had nowhere to hide. I smoothed my worn dress, the only decent outfit Jennifer hadn't deemed unfashionable, and donated and reached for the doorknob. Time to face the music. As the door swung open and I saw my brother's weathered face break into a smile, I felt my carefully constructed facade begin to crack. "Patty," he exclaimed, pulling me into a bear hug. "God, I've missed you. The flight got in early, so I thought I'd surprise you and help set up for the party." Over his shoulder, I saw his expression shift as he took in the empty foyer where family photos once lined the walls. His embrace loosened as he pulled back to study my face, and I witnessed the exact moment he realized something was terribly wrong. Patty. Frank's voice carried the same commanding tone that had earned him full colonel status, but underneath lay something fragile. His eyes swept the barren entryway where our parents' wedding portrait once hung. What happened here? I forced brightness into my voice. Oh, I'm redecorating, you know how it is. Out with the old, waiting for the new to arrive. My brother's steel-gray eyes, identical to our father's, narrowed. In 35 years of military service, Frank had interrogated enemy combatants and extracted truth from the most stubborn witnesses. I didn't stand a chance. Show me the rest, he said quietly, stepping past me into the living room. His boots echoed on bare floors that used to be muffled by Persian rugs. He turned a slow circle, absorbing the nothingness. The pale rectangles on walls where paintings had hung. The indentations in hardwood where furniture had rested for decades. Frank, really, it's not what you think. My voice cracked like thin ice. He continued his inspection, military precise, checking each room with growing alarm. The dining room with its paper plates. The kitchen, once the heart of our gatherings, now stark, except for mismatched dishes I'd bought at the dollar store. He opened the refrigerator, stared at its meager contents, then quietly closed it. Your bedroom, he commanded, already heading up the stairs. I trailed behind each step, heavier than the last. He pushed open my door to find the air mattress with duct tape patches, a cardboard box serving as a nightstand, wire hangers in an empty closet. The guest rooms, his voice had gone dangerously soft. Also being renovated, I whispered. Frank walked to what had been Carl's office, now containing nothing but dust motes dancing in afternoon light. He stood at the window overlooking the backyard, where my prized rose garden had withered from neglect. His shoulders, rigid hands clasped behind his back in parade rest. How long? He asked without turning around. The dam burst. 43 years of being his big sister, the strong one who'd held our family together after Mom died, crumbled in an instant. I sank onto the floor and sobbed. Not delicate tears, but ugly, wrenching sounds that had been trapped for months. Frank was beside me instantly, gathering me against his chest like when he was 6 and scared of thunderstorms. Patty, talk to me. Please. Between gasps, the story poured out. Every detail I'd hidden, every humiliation endured, every dollar stolen. Frank listened without interrupting, his jaw working as I described sleeping on floors, rationing food, watching my life disappear piece by piece. When I finished exhausted and empty, he helped me stand. Show me the papers. Bank statements, legal documents, everything. Brad took those too, said it was cluttering the house. Something shifted in Frank's expression, a coldness I'd never seen directed at family. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through contacts with practiced efficiency. Martinez. Yeah, it's Brennan. I need you here yesterday. He rattled off my address. Bring the full kit. Elder abuse, financial exploitation, possible fraud. Frank, what are you doing? My job. He ended the call and immediately placed another. Torres, clear your schedule. I've got a situation. Another pause. My sister. It's bad. I grabbed his arm. You can't involve the authorities. Brad's my son. Frank's face softened, but his resolve remained iron. Patty, I've spent the last 18 months as a JAG officer specializing in elder financial abuse. I've seen this pattern dozens of times. This isn't just family drama anymore. This is criminal. But he's not a bad person. He's just confused maybe Jennifer influenced him. Has he ever asked if you have enough to eat? The question hit like cold water. I shook my head. Does he know you're sleeping on the floor? Another shake. When's the last time he visited without asking for money? I couldn't remember. The realization must have shown on my face because Frank pulled me close again. This isn't your fault. You didn't fail as a mother. Sometimes good people raise children who make terrible choices. A knock interrupted us. Through the window, I saw a woman in naval dress uniform carrying a briefcase. Frank squeezed my shoulder. Commander Martinez is the best forensic accountant in the military. If there's a paper trail, she'll find it. As he headed downstairs, my phone buzzed. Brad's text made my stomach lurch. Running late to the reunion. Jennifer wants to show everyone her new car. Can't wait to tell the family about our investment strategies. Frank reappeared with Commander Martinez, a compact woman with sharp eyes and kind smile. Mrs. Hartman, I know this is overwhelming, but time is critical. Can you access any online accounts? Brad changed all the passwords. Email. He monitors it. Said it was for my protection against scammers. Martinez and Frank exchanged looks. Classic isolation tactics, she murmured, pulling out a tablet. But everyone leaves digital footprints. Let's start with what you remember. For the next hour, I answered questions while Martinez typed rapidly. Account numbers I'd memorized, dates of transfers, Jennifer's maiden name. Frank paced occasionally, barking questions into his phone. I caught fragments: forensic recovery, asset freeze, interstate commerce. Patty Martinez looked up from her screen. Did you know Brad opened 3 credit cards in your name? What? Maxed out. $22,000 in debt. There's also a home equity loan for $90,000. The room spun. Frank steadied me. But I never signed anything like that. Digital signatures, Martinez said grimly. Easily forged if someone has access to your personal information. There's more. Your property taxes are 8 months overdue. You're in pre-foreclosure. That's impossible. Brad said he was paying everything. Frank's phone rang. He listened, face darkening. Understood. We'll be ready. He hung up and turned to us. That was my contact at the FBI. Brad's been under investigation for embezzling from military contracts. They've been building a case but needed more evidence. FBI, I whispered. Your son's company has been billing the government for services never rendered. Ghost employees, inflated invoices. We're talking millions. No, Brad wouldn't. He's a patriot. His father served. Frank knelt before me, taking my weathered hands in his. Patty, I need you to listen carefully. In about 2 hours, this house will be full of family. Brad and Jennifer will arrive expecting to continue their charade, but law enforcement will be here too. Are you prepared for that? Terror and relief warred in my chest. What about Madison? She's innocent in this. She's with Jennifer's parents in Florida, has been for 3 weeks. Another lie. They'd told me Madison was at space camp. I'd sent $500 I couldn't spare for her expenses. Martinez's fingers flew over her tablet. Got something. Jennifer Hartman, formerly Jennifer Walsh. This is her 3rd marriage. The previous 2 ended after the husband's families filed complaints about missing assets. She's done this before. Different states, different names. She's been careful to stay just under the radar, until now. Frank's expression turned predatory. She picked the wrong family this time. The doorbell rang. We froze. Through the window, I spotted Cousin Marie's minivan. The reunion, I gasped. I can't face them like this. Frank straightened his uniform. You won't face them alone. We're going to get through this together. Martinez are your people in position. She nodded, speaking quietly into an earpiece. Surveillance van is 3 houses down. Agents standing by. Then let's give Brad and Jennifer exactly what they expect. A normal family reunion. Frank's smile held no warmth. Patty, can you hold it together for a few more hours? I thought of Carl, how proud he'd been of our family, our home, our life together. Thought of the humiliation of eating on floors, counting pennies, sleeping on punctured plastic. Something crystallized inside me harder than the fear. Yes, I said, standing straighter. I can. Frank squeezed my shoulder. That's my sister. Now let's go greet our guests. And Patty, follow my lead. As we headed downstairs to begin the charade, I caught sight of myself in the hallway mirror. Despite the threadbare dress and hollow cheeks, something had changed. For the first time in months, I didn't look like a victim. The doorbell rang again, and I reached for the handle. The trap was set. All we needed now was for the rats to walk in. Marie burst through the doorway in a cloud of perfume and exclamations. "Patty, oh my goodness, I've missed you so much." Her embrace nearly knocked me backward before she froze mid-hug. "Wait, where's your furniture?" Before I could respond, Frank smoothly intervened. Marie looking beautiful as always. He swept her into a discussion about her kids, while I greeted Uncle Pete and Aunt Dorothy behind her. More relatives streamed in, each stopping short at the empty rooms. "Minimalism," Frank announced to the growing crowd. Patty's embracing the Japanese concept of essential living. Very trendy. Dorothy pursed her lips, studying me with the shrewd intelligence that ran in our mother's side. "Is that so? And I suppose eating hot dogs on paper plates is part of this trend?" "Actually," Frank said, guiding everyone toward the bare living room, "we're having an indoor picnic theme today. Casual fun, different." The relatives exchanged glances, but settled onto the floor with varying degrees of grace. Uncle Pete, 78, with 2 hip replacements, required Frank and Cousin Bobby's assistance. I burned with shame watching them struggle without chairs. "Where's that piano?" Marie asked, gesturing to the empty corner. "Mom's Steinway I was hoping Madison could play for us today." My throat closed. That piano had been our grandmother's, passed to our mother, then to me. 3 generations of tiny fingers learning chopsticks of Christmas carols and birthday songs. Being tuned, I managed. Dorothy's eyes narrowed. She'd helped me polish that piano after Carl's funeral, knew how religiously I maintained it. Car doors slammed outside. Through the window, Jennifer's white Mercedes gleamed like an accusation. She emerged wearing what looked like a designer suit, helping Madison out, while Brad retrieved shopping bags from the trunk. "Showtime," Frank murmured. Commander Martinez had positioned herself by the kitchen, appearing to scroll through her phone while actually documenting everything. The front door flew open without a knock. "Family's here!" Brad boomed, striding in like he owned the place, which I realized with sick certainty he probably thought he soon would. Jennifer air-kissed her way through the room, diamonds flashing. Real ones, I noted. Bought with my money. Madison's sweet 12-year-old Madison looked uncomfortable in an outfit that probably cost more than my monthly allowance. "Sorry we're late," Brad announced, not sounding sorry at all. "Had to stop by the Porsche dealership. Might add a second car to our fleet." "Fleet?" Uncle Pete raised an eyebrow. "Well, yeah." Brad puffed up. "Jennifer's Mercedes, my Range Rover. Success requires the right image, you know." "Interesting." Frank's tone remained neutral. "Business must be booming." "Oh, it is. Military contracts are gold mines if you know how to work them." Martinez glanced up from her phone. I saw Frank give an imperceptible nod. "Speaking of success," Cousin Bobby said, "where'd all Patty's furniture go? This place used to be packed with beautiful things." Jennifer laughed, a tinkling sound like breaking glass. "Oh, you know Patty. She insisted on decluttering. We tried to talk her out of it, but she practically begged us to haul everything away." "Really?" Dorothy's voice could have frosted windows. "She begged you to take her mother's china, the set our grandmother brought from Ireland." Jennifer's smile flickered. "Well, it was just collecting dust." "In her china cabinet, which is also gone." "Aunt Dorothy," Brad interjected with forced joviality, "Mom's getting older. She couldn't keep up with all that stuff. We're helping her simplify." "By taking her $12,000 pension?" Frank asked quietly. The room went silent. Madison looked between her parents', confusion clear on her young face. Brad's neck reddened. "Who told you about that?" "Just curious how a 70-year-old woman with that kind of monthly income ends up with $47 and expired milk." "Frank, I whispered, please. But Dorothy had joined the hunt. You know, Patty, I've been meaning to ask about those emails. Jennifer stiffened. What emails? Oh, the ones from Patty begging for money, except they didn't sound like her. Wrong phrases, wrong grammar, almost like someone else wrote them. Marie gasped. I got those too. 3 different requests for loans. I thought it was a scam. It was, Frank said. Brad stepped forward, fists clenched. Now wait a minute. You can't come here and accuse us of anything. Everything we've done has been legal and above board. Including the credit cards. Martinez spoke for the first time. The ones opened in your mother's name without her knowledge. Jennifer grabbed Brad's arm. Who is this woman? Commander Martinez, Financial Crimes Division. She showed her credentials. I'm particularly interested in the home equity loan you took out using forged signatures. This is ridiculous, Brad shouted. Mom gave us permission for everything. Did I give you permission to sell my house? I asked quietly. Every head swiveled to me. Brad's mouth opened and closed like a landed fish. What? Marie breathed. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the crumpled eviction notice Mrs. Chen had given me. Apparently my son sold my home to his own shell company for $1. I'm being evicted next week. Uncle Pete struggled to his feet. Hip replacements be damned. You sold your mother's house, the home your father built. It's not like that. Jennifer's voice had gone shrill. We're protecting her assets. By stealing them? Dorothy pulled out her phone. Should I play the voicemail where you tried to sell me Patty's mother's wedding ring, the one you claimed she gave you? Madison started crying. Mom, what's happening? Nothing, sweetie. Uncle Frank is just confused. Uncle Frank is perfectly clear. He moved to the center of the room, every inch the military commander. For the past 6 months, you've systematically robbed my sister. Stripped her home, stolen her money, destroyed her credit, and left her eating scraps on the floor like a dog. How dare you? Brad lunged forward. Frank sidestepped easily. 23 years of Marine combat training versus a soft suburban contractor wasn't even a contest. Brad's momentum carried him past Frank, who simply guided him into the wall with minimal effort. Brad bounced off and spun back, swinging wildly. This time Frank caught his wrist twisted and Brad dropped to his knees with a yelp. Assault on a federal officer, Frank noted calmly. That's a felony. Federal officer, Jennifer had gone pale. You said you were military. I am. JAG Corps, investigating military contract fraud. He released Brad, who sprawled on the floor. Which brings us to your husband's other activities. Martinez looked up from her tablet. Mr. Hartman, would you like to explain the $3.2 million in fraudulent billing to the Department of Defense? Or should I? Brad stayed on the floor, color draining from his face. Jennifer backed toward the door designer heels, clicking on hardwood. Going somewhere, Mrs. Hartman, Martinez asked pleasantly. Because Agents Walker and Stone outside might have questions about insurance fraud in your name. 3 states, multiple victims. Through the window, I saw 2 people in FBI windbreakers standing by Jennifer's Mercedes. This is insane, Jennifer shrieked. We haven't done anything wrong. Tell them Brad. But Brad remained on the floor staring at Frank with dawning horror. You set us up. No, Frank said. You set yourselves up. I just made sure you'd fall in the right direction. Madison sobbed harder. I moved to comfort her, but Jennifer snatched her away. Don't touch my daughter. The daughter you told Patty was at space camp, Dorothy asked. While she was actually with your parents so you could empty this house without witnesses. How did you? Jennifer trailed off. Frank smiled coldly. Amazing what a few phone calls can uncover. Your parents were very chatty about their surprise extended visit with Madison. The doorbell rang. Everyone jumped. Martinez checked her phone. That would be our additional units. Shall we? Wait. Brad scrambled up. Mom, tell them this is a misunderstanding. Tell them you gave us permission. I looked at my son, searching for any trace of the boy who'd built birdhouses with his father, who'd brought me breakfast in bed on Mother's Day. That child was gone, replaced by a stranger who'd watched me starve without blinking. "I gave you my trust," I said quietly. "You gave me nothing but betrayal in return." Brad's face contorted. "After everything we've done for you, we managed your money, paid your bills." "Paid my bills." I laughed, but it sounded like breaking. "You put me in foreclosure. You maxed out credit cards in my name. You left me with $47 to live on." "That's not true." But his protest rang hollow. Bobby spoke up. "I saw the refrigerator, Brad. 3 eggs and expired milk." "What kind of son does that?" "The kind who brags about it." Marie added, disgust dripping from every word. The doorbell rang again, more insistent. Jennifer made a break for the back door, but found Cousin Danny blocking her path. 6'4" Danny, who'd played college football before becoming a cop. "I don't think so," he said pleasantly. "This is kidnapping," she screamed. "This is a citizen's arrest," Danny corrected. "I'm off duty, but I still know crime when I see it." Martinez opened the front door. FBI agents entered, followed by local police. The lead agent, a woman with steel gray hair, surveyed the scene. Brad and Jennifer Hartman. Jennifer burst into tears. Calculated tears, I noticed. Perfect makeup intact. "This is all a mistake. We're being persecuted for helping family. Ma'am, we have warrants for your arrest on multiple counts of fraud, elder abuse, and theft. You have the right to remain silent." As they read Miranda rights, Brad found his voice. "Mom, you can't let them do this. I'm your son." "My son died the day he decided I was nothing but a bank account," I replied. Madison had stopped crying, watching her parents with dawning understanding. At 12, she was old enough to recognize guilt when she saw it. "Grandma Patty," she said quietly, "is that why you don't have furniture anymore?" I nodded, throat tight. "Is that why you look so thin?" Another nod. Madison turned to her parents. "You told me Grandma wanted to live simply. You said she was happy." "Madison, honey," Jennifer started. "No," Madison pulled away. "You lied. You stole from Grandma and lied to me." "We did it for you," Brad shouted as an agent cuffed him. "Private school dance lessons your college fund?" "Paid for with stolen money," Frank said. "Every penny will be returned." The agents led Brad and Jennifer toward the door. Jennifer maintained her victim act, sobbing about persecution. Brad had gone silent, reality finally sinking in. As they passed me, Brad stopped. "Mom, please. I'm sorry." I searched his face. No genuine remorse, just fear of consequences. "Sorry you got caught." They were gone, loaded into separate vehicles. The remaining agents began documenting the scene. Martinez approached with papers. "Mrs. Hartman, we've frozen all accounts pending investigation. Your money will be recovered. The house sale was fraudulent, easily reversed. You'll have full restitution plus damages." "What about Madison?" I looked at my granddaughter huddled with Dorothy. "Her grandparents are driving up from Florida. She'll stay with them during proceedings." The relatives had gone quiet, processing what they'd witnessed. Uncle Pete cleared his throat. "Patty, why didn't you tell us?" "Pride," I admitted. "Shame. Hope that maybe I was wrong about them." Marie hugged me. "We would have helped." "I know. That made it worse somehow." Frank addressed the room. "What happened here is more common than you think. Elder financial abuse. Family members taking advantage. Patty's not alone, and she's not at fault." "But we missed the signs," Dorothy said angrily. "We should have known." "They were careful," Martinez said. "This type of criminal counts on family loyalty and victim shame. Without Frank's expertise, this could have continued indefinitely." "Or until I died," I added bluntly. Several relatives flinched. "Well, it's over now," Bobby declared. "We'll help you rebuild Patty, starting with getting furniture in here." "And food," Marie added. Real food. The room buzzed with plans. Who had spare furniture, who could help with repairs, who would drive me to appointments. The family that had seemed fractured moments ago solidified around me like armor. Madison approached tentatively. "Grandma Patty, I'm sorry." "Oh, sweetheart, none of this is your fault." "I should have visited more, should have noticed." I pulled her close, this child caught in her parents' web. "We both got fooled, but we're going to be okay now." She buried her face in my shoulder. Over her head, I met Frank's eyes. My little brother, my protector, my hero. He winked, and for the first time in months, I smiled. The reunion wasn't what anyone expected, but perhaps it was what we needed. Truth, no matter how ugly, beats beautiful lies every time. 2 hours after Brad and Jennifer were taken away, my house buzzed with activity. Family members had scattered to gather supplies while Frank and Commander Martinez set up a makeshift command center in my empty dining room. Madison dozed on Aunt Dorothy's lap, emotionally exhausted. A sharp knock interrupted the quiet conversations. Frank checked his phone. "That's Captain Torres." The man who entered looked nothing like military. Rumpled polo shirt, khakis, sneakers that had seen better miles, but his eyes missed nothing, scanning the room with computer-like precision. "Ma'am," he nodded to me. "I apologize for the circumstances of our meeting. Captain Torres is our forensic accountant," Frank explained. "He's been investigating Brad's company for 14 months. 14 months. I sank onto the floor. "You've known that long." "We've suspected," Torres corrected, pulling out a laptop. "Military contract fraud is complex. We needed ironclad evidence before moving forward. Your situation provided the final pieces." "My situation," I repeated numbly. "You mean my suffering was useful?" Frank knelt beside me. "Patty, we didn't know about the personal theft until today. The investigation focused on Brad's business dealings. If we'd known..." "You'd have acted sooner." I believed him. Frank would never let family hurt if he could prevent it. Torres opened his laptop, angling the screen toward us. Spreadsheets filled with numbers that might as well have been hieroglyphics. "Mrs. Hartman, your son's company Tactical Defense Solutions has been billing the Pentagon for services never rendered." "I don't understand." "Example, last month he invoiced $800,000 for security assessments at 5 military bases." Torres clicked through documents. "Our investigation shows he never visited those bases. The personnel listed as conducting assessments don't exist." "Ghost employees," Martinez added. "Fictitious people drawing real paychecks." My head spun. "But Brad's company has actual workers. I've met them at barbecues." "He has 12 real employees," Torres confirmed, "and 47 fake ones. Every phantom paycheck goes directly to accounts he controls." Dorothy gasped. "That's fraud on a massive scale." 3.2 million and counting, Torres said. "But that's just federal crimes. There's more." My stomach lurched. "More?" Martinez pulled up her tablet. "Jennifer's history makes for interesting reading. Married name number 1, Jennifer Collins. Divorced after her mother-in-law's life savings vanished. Married name number 2, Jennifer Valdez. That mother-in-law died under suspicious circumstances." "Died," my voice cracked. "Overdose of prescription medication. Ruled accidental, but the family suspected foul play. Couldn't prove anything." "You're saying she might have..." "I'm saying patterns exist for a reason," Martinez replied carefully. "Jennifer targets vulnerable elderly relatives through their adult children. Your case breaks that pattern only because Frank intervened." I thought about my recent dizzy spells, the new medications Brad insisted I needed, the pills I'd stopped taking because they made me feel worse. Cold dread washed over me. "The medications," I whispered. "Brad said they were supplements for my bones." Frank's expression darkened. "Where are they?" "Kitchen cabinet, top shelf." He strode out, returning with 3 prescription bottles. Martinez photographed the labels. These aren't supplements. This one's a powerful sedative. This causes confusion in elderly patients. And this? She paused. This interacts dangerously with the others. She was drugging you, Dorothy said flatly, making you weak and confused so you wouldn't fight back. I remembered the fog I'd lived in, the difficulty concentrating the times I'd signed papers without really reading them. That's why I felt better when I stopped taking them. You probably saved your own life, Torres said quietly. Silence descended. Madison stirred but didn't wake. Such innocence amid such evil. Frank's phone rang. He listened, expression shifting. Understood. Yes, she should hear this. He activated speaker. You're on with my sister, Agent Chen. Mrs. Hartman, this is Special Agent Chen with the FBI Financial Crimes Unit. We've uncovered additional information about your case. More? How could there possibly be more? Your son maintained a separate bank account we've just accessed. It contains approximately $400,000 transferred from your accounts over the past 6 months. 400,000. I couldn't process the number. But my total pension would only be $72,000 for that period. The additional funds came from liquidating your investments, your IRA mutual funds, the college fund you maintained for Madison. Madison's college fund. I looked at the sleeping child. I've been contributing to that for 12 years. Current balance 0. Agent Chen confirmed. Additionally, we found evidence of plans to have you declared incompetent. Documents were being prepared for Brad to gain full power of attorney. When Frank demanded. Based on the lawyer's scheduling within 2 weeks. There's also correspondence about placing Mrs. Hartman in a memory care facility in Nevada, the cheapest one they could find. My knees gave out. Frank caught me, lowering me gently to the floor. They'd planned to lock me away, steal everything, and let me rot in some budget facility where no one knew me. There's one more thing, Agent Chen continued. We found searches on Jennifer's computer for how long do 70-year-olds typically live and accelerating inheritance legally. They were researching how to kill me, I stated flatly. Without leaving evidence, Chen confirmed. Mrs. Hartman, you were in serious danger. Your brother's intervention may have saved more than your finances. After Chen hung up, the room stayed silent. Even Dorothy had no words. The scope of betrayal stretched beyond comprehension. This wasn't just greed. It was attempted murder with a calculator instead of a gun. Torres cleared his throat. There's something else you should know. Brad's been siphoning money from other relatives too. What? Multiple voices chorused. Small amounts. 100 here, 50 there. Using information he gathered at family events. Access to mail, overheard passwords. He pulled up another screen. 17 family members show unauthorized transactions. Marie grabbed her phone, frantically checking her bank app. $200 missing last month. I thought it was fraud, but the bank said it was legitimate because it came from a family member's account. $350 from mine, Bobby growled. The kids' Christmas fund. One by one, relatives discovered small thefts. Nothing major individually, but collectively representing thousands. Brad hadn't just betrayed me. He'd victimized anyone who'd trusted him. Classic escalation, Martinez observed. Start small, test boundaries. When no one notices, go bigger. Patty was the ultimate target, but everyone was a potential victim. Madison woke, then rubbing her eyes. What's happening? Dorothy smoothed her hair. Adult talk, sweetie. Nothing for you to worry about. I heard Dad's name. Her chin trembled. He did bad things, didn't he? I moved to sit beside her. Yes, sweetheart. He did. To you? To me and others. She absorbed this with 12-year-old solemnity. Is that why we suddenly had money for Disney World, and my new laptop, and Mom's jewelry? I'm afraid so. Madison pulled something from her pocket. My breath caught. My mother's emerald ring, the one Jennifer claimed I'd given her. I took this from Mom's dresser, Madison confessed. She said you gave it to her, but I heard you telling Mrs. Chen you'd never take it off while you lived, so I knew Mom was lying. You stole it back. Is it stealing if it wasn't hers? Madison's logic was heartbreakingly pure. I wanted to return it, but I was scared. I slipped the ring onto my finger where it belonged. You're braver than you know. I'm sorry my parents hurt you. People make choices, I told her gently. Your parents made bad ones. That doesn't reflect on you. Frank stood commanding attention. Listen up, everyone. What we've learned today goes beyond simple theft. This was a coordinated attack on Patty's life, finances, and freedom, but they failed. Because of you, I said. Because of family, he corrected. They counted on isolation. Instead, we're united. What happens now? Uncle Pete asked. Torres began packing up. Now the legal system takes over. With the evidence we've collected, Brad faces 25 to 30 years federal time, Jennifer 15 to 20, possibly more if the investigation into her previous mother-in-law's death reopens. Will Mom get her money back? Madison asked quietly. Every penny, Martinez assured her, plus damages. Your grandmother will be more than comfortable. Good. Madison leaned against me. Maybe she can get furniture again, and food that isn't expired. Several relatives wiped their eyes. This child's simple wishes highlighted the horror of what had been done. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Cousin Sarah's truck loaded with furniture. Word had spread. The cavalry was arriving. As family poured in with donations, I sat surrounded by love and protection. The nightmare was ending. Justice was coming. And somewhere in Nevada, a cheap memory care facility would have to find another victim. This one was staying home. By 5 o'clock, my house hummed with controlled chaos. FBI agents had established a perimeter, while family members continued hauling in furniture and supplies. Someone had even rescued my mother's rocking chair from a neighbor's garage sale. Frank pulled me aside. Patty, we need to discuss something privately. In the kitchen away from others, he revealed his phone. Brad's calling from custody. 5th time. He's getting desperate. I don't want to talk to him. You don't have to, but his lawyer is pushing for a deal. Wants to meet here, claims Brad has information about other victims. Other victims. The word tasted like ash. Jennifer wasn't working alone. There's apparently a network. Before I could respond, commotion erupted from the living room. Through the doorway, I saw Martinez talking rapidly into her phone, while Torres typed furiously on his laptop. What's happening? I asked. Martinez lowered her phone. Brad's partner just arrived, Douglas Hutchinson. He doesn't know Brad's been arrested. The one I heard was coming with cash. I remembered Frank's earlier phone call. That's him. He's parking now. Frank's expression turned predatory. How much does he know? According to Brad's files, everything. He's the money man, handles offshore accounts. Torres pulled up surveillance footage on his laptop. There he is. A heavy-set man in an expensive suit climbed out of a Bentley, pulling a metal briefcase from the back seat. He checked his watch, smoothed his tie, and headed for my front door. Everyone stay calm, Frank commanded. Let him come in. Act normal. The doorbell chimed. I answered with Frank behind me, finding Douglas on my porch, all false smiles and cologne. Mrs. Hartman, so sorry I'm late for the reunion. He pushed past me without invitation. Brad asked me to stop by with some paperwork. Paperwork, I managed. Just some signatures. Nothing major. His eyes swept the room, taking in the agents who tried to look like relatives. Quite a crowd. Brad mentioned you were downsizing. Good thing I came prepared to finalize everything. He set the briefcase on the floor, clicking it open to reveal stacks of cash. Real money, more than I'd seen in my lifetime. Several relatives gasped. "What's that for?" Frank asked casually. Douglas straightened, finally noticing the uniform. "Oh, military family. How wonderful. This is just a small token of appreciation for Mrs. Hartman. Brad wanted to ensure his mother was comfortable during the transition." Transition. I found my voice. "To your new living arrangements. The lovely facility in Nevada. Brad showed me pictures. Very peaceful." "I'm not going to any facility." Douglas's smile flickered. "Of course you are. It's all arranged. Brad has power of attorney." "No," I said firmly. "He doesn't." "Mrs. Hartman, I understand this is difficult, but your son knows what's best. You're clearly struggling here." He gestured at the sparse furniture. "The facility will provide proper care." "The facility will provide a convenient way to hide elder abuse," Frank interjected. Douglas's face flushed. "I don't know who you are, but this is a family matter. I'm her brother, and you're under arrest." The transformation was instantaneous. Douglas lunged for the briefcase, but Danny moved faster, tackling him to the ground. The case burst open, $100 bills exploding across my floor like autumn leaves. "Federal agents, nobody move." The FBI team dropped all pretense, weapons drawn. Douglas struggled under Danny's weight. "You can't do this. I have rights." "You have the right to remain silent." Agent Chen entered, badge visible. "Though in your case, talking might help. Your partner Brad is singing like a canary." "Brad would never sell you out. He already has." Chen produced a tablet showing Brad in an interrogation room. "Want to hear him explaining your role in defrauding the military?" Douglas went limp. "I want a lawyer." "You'll need one. Conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, money laundering. That's just the federal charges." Chen nodded to other agents. "Get him processed." As they hauled Douglas away, Madison stared at the scattered money. "Is that all stolen too?" "Probably," Torres said, photographing the serial numbers. "We'll trace every bill." I started gathering the cash hands, shaking. Clean money turned dirty by association. Frank helped along with others until we'd collected approximately $300,000. Evidence. Martinez sealed it in bags. "This connects to offshore accounts we've been tracking." My phone rang, unknown number. Frank checked it, eyebrows rising. "It's Jennifer's lawyer." "She has a lawyer already. Public defender, wants to make a deal." "No deals," I said flatly. "Hear him out. Information is valuable." Against my better judgment, I answered on speaker. A nervous male voice filled the kitchen. "Mrs. Hartman, this is Gerald Hoffman representing Jennifer Hartman. I understand there have been some misunderstandings." "Misunderstandings." Rage bubbled up. "Is that what we're calling theft and attempted murder?" "My client maintains her innocence, but is willing to provide information about others involved in exchange for consideration." "Others." Frank leaned closer. "Mrs. Hartman, excuse me, my client, has knowledge of a wider network, other families being targeted. She's willing to provide names, locations, methods." "In exchange for what?" "Reduced charges, minimum security placement, visitation rights with her daughter." Madison, listening from the doorway, shook her head violently. I understood completely. "Mr. Hoffman," I said carefully, "your client drugged me, stole my life savings, and planned to lock me away to die. What makes you think I'd agree to any deal?" "Because there are 17 other elderly victims currently being exploited, some in worse condition than you. My client can provide details to save them." 17 others. 17 more people eating on floors, sleeping on air mattresses, wondering why their children had turned against them. Frank took the phone. "This is Colonel Brennan, JAG Corps. If your client has information, she provides it unconditionally. Cooperation might influence sentencing, but no promises." "I'll relay that to my client." "Do that. She has 1 hour to decide." He hung up. The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of laptops and quiet conversations between agents. Would you really let her get a lighter sentence? Dorothy asked. Not my call, Frank said. But if she helps save 17 people, judges consider that. A knock interrupted. Cousin Sarah entered carrying a steaming casserole. Figured you might need real food. Mom's famous lasagna recipe. The smell nearly knocked me over. Real food. Hot food. Food made with love instead of desperation. Tears coursed down my cheeks. Oh, honey, Sarah hugged me. It's just lasagna. But it wasn't. It was normalcy. Kindness. Family taking care of family. Everything Brad and Jennifer had stolen. As Sarah bustled about finding plates, real plates, someone had donated, my phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Mom, it's Brad. They won't let me call anymore. Please know I'm sorry. Jennifer made me do it. She threatened to leave take Madison. I was weak. Please forgive me. Please don't let them send me away. I'm your son. I showed Frank. He snorted. Still blaming others. No accountability. He says Jennifer threatened him. While he was stealing from 17 other relatives, that was Jennifer too. The truth hurt. Brad wasn't a victim. He was a willing participant who got caught. Another text. Mom, please. Remember when I was little, how you always protected me? I need protection now. You needed protection from scraped knees, I told the phone. Not from consequences of federal crimes. But my heart still ached. Somewhere under the criminal was my baby boy. Or maybe that boy had never existed except in my imagination. Torres called out, Mrs. Hartman, you need to see this. On his screen were bank records. Not Brad's. Mine. Going back years. What am I looking at? Transactions. Small amounts disappearing for the past 7 years. Hundreds here, thousands there. Always just below the threshold you'd notice. 7 years? Brad had been stealing since Carl's cancer diagnosis. While I'd focused on my husband's illness, my son had systematically robbed me. He saw opportunity in your distraction, Martinez said gently. Common predator behavior. Carl never knew. That somehow seemed worse. Based on the timing, no. Brad was careful to avoid detection while your husband lived. So Carl died thinking we'd raised a good son. Perhaps that was mercy. My phone rang again. Hoffman, the lawyer. Mrs. Hartman, my client has agreed to full cooperation. She's prepared to provide names, addresses, and methods for 17 current cases and approximately 40 completed ones. 40 completed. My voice sounded distant. You mean 40 families destroyed. She's also willing to testify against Brad and Douglas regarding the military fraud. Throwing them under the bus to save herself, Frank observed. She has survival instincts, Hoffman admitted. But the information is genuine. Lives are at stake. Frank took over negotiations while I stepped outside for air. The sunset painted my neighborhood golden peaceful. Normal. How many other houses hid similar secrets? How many other elderly parents sat in empty rooms wondering where they'd gone wrong? Madison found me on the porch. Grandma Patty, are you okay? I will be. She sat beside me, young face serious. I won't be like them. I promise. I know, sweetheart. How do you know? Because you already proved it. You brought back my ring. You cried when you learned the truth. You have empathy. That's what they lack. What's empathy? Feeling others' pain, caring about more than yourself. She considered this. Is that why you're sad even though they hurt you? Because you have empathy. Exactly. Then I want to keep mine even if it hurts sometimes. I hugged her close. That's my girl. Inside the trap had caught more than expected. 3 criminals instead of 2. 17 families about to be saved. Justice rolling forward like a tide. But watching the sunset with my granddaughter, I found something better than justice. Hope. The cycle could be broken. Evil didn't have to win. Tomorrow would bring trials and testimony. Tonight I had family food and freedom. Brad might have stolen my furniture, but he couldn't steal my spirit. And that more than any revenge was victory. 3 days passed in a blur of legal procedures and family support. My house, once empty, now overflowed with donated furniture, home-cooked meals, and relatives taking shifts to ensure I was never alone. The morning of the 4th day, Frank arrived with coffee and a grim expression. "Jennifer talked," he said without preamble. "All night. The FBI has names, addresses, account numbers. Teams are mobilizing across 5 states. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug. How bad? 43 confirmed elderly victims, 19 still ongoing. Total theft exceeds $12 million. $12 million! The number felt impossible. From people like me, exactly like you. Widows, widowers, people with pensions and savings. Jennifer had a type. He pulled out his tablet. Want to know the worst part? Did I, but ignorance hadn't protected me before? Tell me. She kept score, a spreadsheet ranking victims by how much she'd extracted. You were number 18. Only 18? You fought back even unconsciously, stopping those medications, questioning the transactions. Others weren't so lucky. He showed me entries. Martha Williams, 83, living in a storage unit after losing her house. Robert Chen, 77, dead from malnutrition after Jennifer's crew drained his accounts. Grace Morrison, 91, locked in a facility under false dementia diagnosis. We're getting them out, Frank assured me. Every victim Jennifer identified is being contacted today. My phone rang. Dorothy. Turn on Channel 7 now. The morning news filled my small television. A reporter stood outside the federal courthouse while my son's mugshot blazed across the screen. Massive elder fraud rings spanning 5 states. Bradley Hartman, 38, allegedly masterminded a scheme targeting elderly parents through their adult children. FBI raids this morning have resulted in 15 additional arrests. They showed Jennifer being led in Chain's designer suit replaced by orange jumpsuit, then Douglas Brad's partner flanked by federal marshals. But the image that stopped my heart was the next mugshot. Karen Sullivan, I gasped. Frank nodded. Your former neighbor. Remember when she moved suddenly last year? Karen had lived 3 houses down. We'd shared coffee, complained about property taxes, discussed our children. Her daughter had convinced her to sell and move to a nice retirement community. She was recruiting for Jennifer, Frank explained. Identifying targets. You were on her list. But she was my friend. She was paid $5,000 per successful referral. Betrayal upon betrayal. The foundations of my life kept crumbling. On screen, the reporter continued. The investigation, dubbed Operation Golden Years, has frozen approximately $14 million in assets. Authorities expect more arrests as... I turned it off. Couldn't watch anymore. The doorbell rang immediately. Reporters, Frank muttered, peering out. Word spreading. But it wasn't media. Aunt Dorothy entered carrying a worn photo album. Thought you might need reminders of better times, she said, settling beside me. Inside were pictures I'd forgotten existed. Brad as a toddler, chocolate-smeared face grinning. Brad and Carl building a treehouse. Brad's high school graduation, both of us so proud. When did he change? I wondered aloud. Maybe he didn't, Dorothy said gently. Maybe we only saw what we wanted. You're saying he was always capable of this. I'm saying people are complicated. Good and evil mixed together. Brad chose to feed the evil. Frank's phone buzzed constantly. Updates from the investigation, more arrests, more victims discovered, a financial crimes task force forming to handle the scope. There's something else, he said during a lull. Brad's military contracts. We've uncovered systematic fraud going back 5 years. He wasn't just padding invoices, he was selling classified information. What? This felt like falling down a hole with no bottom. Security assessments contain sensitive data. Base layouts, personnel schedules, vulnerability reports. Brad sold copies to foreign buyers. Treason, Dorothy breathed. Espionage, Frank corrected. Federal prosecutors are adding charges. He's looking at life without parole. Life. My son would die in prison. The baby I'd carried, nursed, raised would never see freedom again. Despite everything, my mother's heart cracked. Madison appeared in the doorway accompanied by Jennifer's parents who'd driven up from Florida. The contrast was stark, their designer clothes versus Madison's simple jeans and t-shirt. "We're taking Madison home," Jennifer's mother announced. "This circus is too much for a child." Over my dead body, Dorothy stood all 5 feet 2 inches of Irish fury. That child stays with family who actually care about her. "We're her grandparents." "You're the people who raised Jennifer," I said quietly. "How'd that work out?" Jennifer's father flushed. "How dare you?" "How dare I? Your daughter drugged me, robbed me, planned to lock me away to die. You want to take Madison back to learn more of the same. Our daughter is innocent until proven guilty." Frank stepped forward. "Actually, she confessed. Extensively. On video. Would you like to see it?" They recoiled. Whatever Jennifer had told them, it wasn't the truth. Madison spoke up. "I want to stay here, with Grandma Patty." "You can't," her other grandmother snapped. "You're a minor. You go where we say." Actually, Frank produced papers. Emergency custody has been granted to Mrs. Patricia Hartman pending final determination. Something about the biological parents being incarcerated for crimes against said guardian. Jennifer's parents retreated, threatening lawyers. Madison watched them go with dry eyes. "They never visited before," she said. "Only started caring when Mom got arrested." The day ground on. Phone calls from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Neighbors stopping by with casseroles and sympathy. A victim's advocate explaining the restitution process. My head pounded. Then Torres arrived with news that changed everything. "We found Brad's safe deposit box. Inside was interesting reading." He handed me a folder. Insurance policies. 7 of them. All on my life. All purchased in the last year. Brad as sole beneficiary. Total payout $9 million. "He was planning to kill me," I said numbly. "The policies require 2-year waiting periods for natural death," Torres explained. "But accidental death pays immediately." Hence Jennifer's research into making death look accidental, Frank added. I thought about the new medications, the dizzy spells, time I nearly fell down the stairs. Had that been planned? A practice run? There's more. Torres pulled out another document. Brad took out similar policies on Jennifer, $3 million worth. He was planning to kill his wife. Double cross? Classic criminal partnership ending. Get everything from you, then eliminate Jennifer and keep it all. What about Madison? Horror washed over me. No policies on her. She was useful for appearances. Small mercies. My granddaughter hadn't been marked for death, just orphaning. The phone rang. Martinez. "Mrs. Hartman, you need to know. Jennifer's previous mother-in-law, the one who died, bodies being exhumed. New autopsy ordered. The insurance policies Brad took out triggered a review. Murder charges." "Possibly. The original investigation was sloppy. Small-town overworked coroner. Nobody pushed for answers. So Jennifer might be a killer after all, and Brad had planned to join her ranks. My son a would-be murderer." The photo album in my lap felt like mockery. Evening brought relative quiet. Most family had gone home, leaving just Frank, Dorothy, and Madison. We sat around my donated kitchen table, sharing Chinese takeout like normal people. "What happens at the trial?" Madison asked. "We tell the truth," I said. "All of it." "Will I have to testify?" Frank considered carefully. "Probably not. You're a minor and there's enough evidence without traumatizing you further." "I'm already traumatized," she said matter-of-factly. Might as well be useful. Dorothy hugged her. Brave girl. Not brave, just angry. We understood. Anger was easier than grief sometimes. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, then recognized the area code. Brad's jail. I know you hate me, but I'm still your son. They want me to plead guilty to everything. Life in prison. No chance of parole. If you ever loved me, please ask them for mercy. I made mistakes, but I don't deserve to die in a cage. Mom, please. I showed Frank. He read it, face impassive. What do you want to do? What should I do? Not my call. But Patty. He hasn't apologized. Not really. Still calling crimes mistakes. Still thinking he deserves special treatment. He was right. Even facing life imprisonment, Brad felt entitled to my protection. The same protection he'd stripped from me. I typed back, "You plan to kill me for insurance money. That's not a mistake. It's evil. Face your consequences like the man your father tried to raise." His response came instantly. "Jennifer made me. It was all her idea." The military fraud, too. The 17 other families you robbed, all Jennifer. No response. He couldn't blame her for crimes predating their marriage. "Block the number," Dorothy advised. "He'll only manipulate." But I wanted the messages. Evidence of his continued lack of remorse. Proof I wasn't wrong to let justice run its course. The news played in the background. More arrests. More victims coming forward. The scope kept expanding. What started with my empty house had exposed a nationwide crisis. "You're a hero," Madison said suddenly. "If Uncle Frank hadn't come early, none of this would have been discovered." "Frank's the hero." "No," he corrected. "You survived long enough to be saved. That's heroism, too." "I ate hot dogs on the floor." "You stopped taking poison pills. You preserved evidence. You endured." He squeezed my hand. Carl would be proud. Carl. He died believing his family was secure, that Brad would care for me, that love meant something in our bloodline. "Maybe it's better he didn't know," I whispered. "Maybe," Frank agreed. "Or maybe he'd have spotted it sooner, protected you better." "We'd never know. The dead keep their own counsel." Later, after everyone left, I wandered my refilling house. Donated furniture mixed with new purchases from the emergency fund Frank had arranged. Not my original pieces, but comfortable. Safe. In what had been Brad's childhood room, I found Madison already asleep. She'd insisted on staying, refusing her other grandparents' mansion. Choosing love over luxury. I tucked her in this child who'd lost both parents to greed. She'd survive. Thrive, even. The poison hadn't reached her generation. My phone showed 17 missed calls from Brad's number. Desperation escalating. Tomorrow brought his bail hearing, though Frank assured me no judge would grant it. Flight risk, he'd said. Danger to the community. My son a danger to the community. The words felt foreign, impossible. Yet evidence mounted hourly. I turned off the lights, double-checked the new locks Frank had installed, and headed to my own bed. A real bed with sheets and pillows and warmth. In darkness, I let myself cry. Not for what Brad had done, but for the son who'd never existed. The good man I'd believed him to be. That phantom deserved mourning. Tomorrow would bring more revelations, more arrests, more horror stories from other victims, but also more healing. More justice. More proof that evil didn't win when good people stood together. Brad's final text glowed on my phone. "You'll regret this. When I die in prison, it's on you." I typed back, "No, your choices, your consequences, your regret to carry." Then I blocked him, cut the last thread binding predator to prey. In the morning, I'd testify before a grand jury. Help send my only child to die behind bars. But tonight I slept peacefully in my own bed in my own house, finally and truly free. 6 months later, autumn sunshine warmed my face as I stood in my backyard watching Madison help plant bulbs for spring. My garden bloomed again, tended by loving hands instead of neglected in despair. The house behind us was mine fully, mine mortgage paid by restitution funds and damages. Deeper, I instructed as Madison dug. Tulips need room to grow. Like people she said wise beyond her 13 years. Frank emerged from the house carrying lemonade. He'd retired from the military 3 months ago, bought a place 2 streets over, close enough to check on us daily, far enough to maintain independence. Mail came, he said, handing me an envelope I'd been expecting. The federal courthouse seal made my hands tremble slightly. Inside official notification, Bradley Marcus Hartman sentenced to life without parole for espionage, fraud, conspiracy, and attempted murder. Jennifer Walsh Hartman, 25 years for fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy. The investigation she'd triggered by confessing had resulted in 57 convictions nationwide. "It's done," I told Madison gently. She nodded, dirt-smudged face calm. "Good. Maybe now he'll think about what he did." Weekly therapy had helped her process the trauma. Dr. Morrison herself, a grandmother, specialized in children of incarcerated parents. Madison was learning that DNA didn't determine destiny. The doorbell chimed. Through years of habit, I still tensed at unexpected visitors, but fear no longer ruled my home. "I'll get it," Frank offered, but I waved him off. My house, my door. James Wilson stood on my porch holding a bouquet of yellow roses. We'd met at the senior center where I now volunteered teaching financial literacy. He was widowed too, understood the peculiar grief of losing a spouse and child in different ways. "Thought these might brighten your afternoon?" he said, eyes crinkling. "They already have." Madison appeared grass-stained and grinning. "Hi, Mr. Wilson. Are you staying for dinner? Grandma's making pot roast." "If I'm invited." "You're always invited," I assured him. Strange how life circled. The empty house that had showcased my destruction now overflowed with warmth. The dining room where I'd arranged paper plates on bare floors hosted weekly family dinners. The bedroom where I'd slept on punctured plastic held a mahogany set donated by Cousin Marie, who'd inherited her mother-in-law's furniture. As James helped Madison finish planting, Frank joined me on the porch. "Happy?" he asked. "Getting there." "Good. You deserve it." "We all do." The settlement from Brad's case had been substantial. Beyond recovering my stolen funds, the government seized his military fraud proceeds. Victims received priority. I'd gotten enough to secure my future, establish Madison's college fund, and create something meaningful. "Speaking of which," Frank checked his watch. "We should go. Don't want to be late for the opening." An hour later, we stood before a modest building downtown. The sign read, "Golden Years Defense Foundation, Protecting Elderly Rights." My vision funded by restitution money and donations from grateful families we'd helped. Inside, Dorothy directed volunteers setting up chairs. Bobby tested the microphone. Marie arranged refreshments on tables that definitely weren't bare floors. "Ready for your speech?" Frank asked. "Terrified," I admitted. "Good, means it matters." People filed in. Some I recognized from support groups, others were strangers drawn by our mission. Reporters positioned cameras discreetly. This wasn't about publicity, but awareness might save lives. At precisely 2 o'clock, I stood before the crowd, hands shaking slightly, voice steady. "My name is Patricia Hartman. 6 months ago, I was eating expired food on an empty floor while my son stole everything I'd worked for. Today, I'm here to ensure no one else suffers in silence." I told my story, not the sanitized version, but the raw truth. The hunger, the humiliation, the discovery that maternal love couldn't reform a predator. The audience listened, some crying, others nodding with painful recognition. Elder abuse thrives in shadow and shame. I continued. We're taught to protect family secrets to handle problems privately, but silence enables predators. Speaking up saves lives. Applause interrupted me. I waited for quiet. This foundation will provide free legal aid, financial auditing, and safe housing for elderly abuse victims. We'll educate families about warning signs. We'll advocate for stronger laws. Most importantly, we'll remind every senior that they're not alone, not powerless, and definitely not just a burden. The crowd rose, applauding. Madison beamed from the front row, flanked by Frank and James. Dorothy wiped tears. Even stoic Bobby looked emotional. Afterwards, as people mingled and shared stories, a woman approached hesitantly. Probably 70, well-dressed, but with telltale signs, the anxious glances, the way she clutched her purse, the practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. My daughter-in-law manages my finances, she whispered. I haven't seen a statement in months. Is that normal? No, I said gently, but we can help. Let's talk privately. Frank appeared with our intake coordinator. Within minutes, the woman was sharing her story with someone who understood. Another life potentially saved. The afternoon flew by. Story after story, each reinforcing our mission's importance. By closing time, we'd scheduled 14 consultations and received dozens of volunteer applications. Not bad for day one, Dorothy declared, collapsing into a chair. It's a start, I agreed. Madison helped clean up mature beyond her years, but still childlike in her enthusiasm. Grandma, that lady looked so scared, like you used to look. Fear fades when you're not alone, I told her. Is that why you started this? So people wouldn't be alone? Partly, also because anger needs purpose. Otherwise, it just eats you alive. She considered this. I'm still angry at my parents. That's okay. Anger protects us from repeating mistakes. Just don't let it define you. Did you forgive them? The question I dreaded. I've forgiven myself for not seeing the truth sooner. As for them, forgiveness isn't required for healing. Moving forward is. James drove us home as evening settled over the neighborhood. Normal families doing normal things, unaware of the drama that had unfolded months ago. Good. Privacy had returned hard-won and precious. Over dinner, Madison regaled us with school stories. She'd joined the debate team, channeling her need for justice into structured arguments. Her latest topic, mandatory financial education for seniors. The judge said I was very persuasive, she announced proudly. Runs in the family, Frank noted. Your grandmother convinced a room full of skeptics to donate thousands today. I just told the truth. Most powerful weapon there is, James added, squeezing my hand under the table. Later, after Madison was asleep and the men had gone home, I sat in my living room. My actual living room with furniture and photos and evidence of life lived. The silence felt different now. Peaceful, not empty. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, then noticed the area code. Brad's prison. Against better judgment, I answered. You have a collect call from a federal correctional facility. Will you accept? No, I said, firmly ending the call. He'd try again. They always did according to the support group. But I'd said my piece at his sentencing, looked him in the eye and described every moment of suffering he'd caused. Watched him realize federal prison meant no parole, no early release, no second chances. Mom, please, he'd begged as guards led him away. I'm not your mom anymore, I'd replied. I'm your victim, and victims don't owe predators anything. Jennifer had been worse, screaming about conspiracy and persecution until the judge threatened contempt charges. Her parents hadn't attended, too ashamed, or perhaps finally understanding what they'd raised. The trials had been grueling but necessary. Each testimony added years to sentences. Other victims found voices sharing their stories. The network collapsed, perpetrators turning on each other for reduced sentences that still meant decades behind bars. Douglas Hutchinson got 30 years, Karen Sullivan, my recruiting neighbor, 15. The entire ring dismantled assets, recovered lives slowly rebuilt. My phone rang again, this time a familiar number. Aunt Patty, Cousin Marie's daughter, calling from college. I wanted to thank you again for the scholarship. I made Dean's List. The Golden Years Defense Foundation had expanded beyond direct services. We now funded education for family members affected by elder abuse, ensuring cycles broke permanently. Your success is thanks enough, I assured her. After we hung up, I walked through my home. The piano had been replaced, not an antique, but a serviceable instrument where Madison practiced daily. The china cabinet held new dishes, gifts from relatives determined to refill my life with beauty. Carl's chair sat empty but no longer felt like a shrine to grief. In my bedroom, the emerald ring caught lamplight. Madison had saved it, risking her mother's wrath for my sake. That courage deserved honoring. Tomorrow I'd add her name to my will. Not just for assets, but for legacy. The foundation would continue through her generation. My journal lay open on the nightstand. Therapy homework, processing trauma through writing. Tonight's entry would be different. Today marks 6 months since Frank arrived early and saved my life, I wrote. I've testified before Congress about elder abuse laws. Started a foundation helping hundreds. Found love again with a man who understands that hearts can hold grief and joy simultaneously. Raised a granddaughter who chose integrity over easy lies. Rebuilt not just my home, but my faith in humanity. Brad called again tonight. I didn't answer. He's serving life while I'm finally living mine. There's poetry in that justice, or perhaps just truth. To anyone reading this who recognizes their own story, speak up. Reach out. Fight back. You're not alone, not crazy, not a burden. You're a survivor, waiting to be born. Tomorrow, Madison and I plant spring bulbs where my rose garden once died. She says gardens are like people. They need tending to bloom. She's right. We're all gardens susceptible to drought and predators, but capable of magnificent recovery with proper care. I sleep peacefully now, not because I've forgotten the trauma, but because I've transformed it. Every victim we help heals my wounds a little more. Every senior who learns their rights honors Carl's memory. Every day Madison chooses kindness over bitterness proves DNA isn't destiny. This isn't the life I planned. It's harder won, but perhaps more precious for the struggle. I've learned that family isn't just blood. It's whoever shows up when you're serving hot dogs on bare floors. Love isn't just words. It's Frank retiring early to stand guard. Hope isn't just feeling. It's Madison planting bulbs for flowers she trusts will bloom. My name is Patricia Hartman. I'm 71 years old. I survived attempted murder by my only child, and I'm thriving. That's my revenge. That's my story. That's my truth. I closed the journal, turned off the light, and settled into bed. Somewhere Brad stared at concrete walls. Jennifer counted days in decades. Their victims rebuilt lives they'd tried to destroy. But here in my reclaimed home, surrounded by love and purpose, I simply slept. Deeply, peacefully, finally and forever free. In the morning, there would be bulbs to plant, foundations to run, grandchildren to raise, life to live fully, fearlessly, genuinely. The empty house had become full again, not with things, but with meaning. And that more than any courtroom victory was justice. The moonlight through my window caught the emerald ring, casting green reflections like hope across the walls. I smiled, closed my eyes, and dreamed of spring gardens blooming against all odds. If you've made it this far in my story, thank you for listening to every painful moment and ultimate triumph. I have to ask, Have you ever noticed warning signs of elder abuse in your own family or community? What would you do if you discovered someone you trusted was taking advantage of a vulnerable loved one? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart or opened your eyes to the reality of elder financial abuse, please hit that like button. Your support helps spread awareness and might save someone from suffering in silence. Consider subscribing to hear more stories of survival, justice, and hope. And please share this video with anyone who needs to hear that they're not alone, not powerless, and definitely not just a burden. Thank you for joining me on this journey from betrayal to triumph. May you always have the courage to speak truth, seek help when needed, and remember that it's never too late to reclaim your life. Stay strong, stay aware, and most importantly, stay connected to those who truly love you. Until next time, this is Patty reminding you that your worth isn't measured by what others take from you, but by the strength you show in standing up again.